I think you had touched upon it too, is like contracts too. It's like a deal is not a deal until you get to the closing table.
Yeah.
Because anything is off. It's like it's a different mindset, I think, here in Florida, where contracts and deals are a whole different story than it is. Yeah, we're over there. It's like you have like not to get too. You get the George Floors like really making sure they're covering all their
that one.
Yeah, covering all
as opposed to all the other lawyers who are not nearly as careful. so I don't know who you're insulting. Maybe both. Well done. He's managed to insult both sides on that. So listen,
the Jews are too careful.
No one can be offended.
All right, episode 30. This has to be 35.
35.
I got it right. There we go. Yeah. 35. So we got a guest today. First, let me introduce you. What should I do first? Introduce him? What's like the correct way to do it? Introduce him first or introduce ourselves first? Because he really doesn't know who you guys are.
You already ruined it.
So
I would just
so it doesn't really matter.
And introduce the guest.
All right, so
fix it in post.
No
Richard Barbara, Richard Barbara, attorney. He is a real estate attorney. And he's are you the chairman yet of FREC or
vice chairman?
Vice chairman,
next year.
Appointed by Desantis to our great governor to the Florida Real Estate Commission, which I don't know. It's a big deal in our world. I don't know in the CPA. What's the version of FREC for you guys?
I mean, I guess the Florida Institute of Certified Public Accountants.
Right.
I
guess.
No, but who's your licensing authority? Who could take your licensing?
Oh, it's going to be the Board of Accountancy,
right.
Department.
That's
right.
So that's who you are.
Yeah,
okay.
That's who you are.
That guy. Yeah. Exactly. Not that guy, but something like it.
Yeah. He's also never been wrong, which is really something that I'm sure you never met anybody who's never been wrong before. That's interesting.
It's just infrequent.
Josh Cadillac, published author. I've known Richard almost 18 years. Cadillac, published author, and the smartest guy I know. So he teaches for the National Association of Realtors all across the country and stuff. So, and tell us a little bit about yourself. So I know all I know is on purpose. By the way, I'm trying to I want the introduction to happen here. I want just to get to know you here instead of on the phone or anything like that. So. A little bit about yourself.
So I'm Steve Colón. I'm a CPA here in the state of Florida for the better part of 2 decades now. I've been a CPA for about 3 decades. I started my career in New York with the international firm of KPMG.
You had to re-get your license over here?
I did.
Right.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
You had to do it in Spanish over here or something, right?
Something like that, yeah. So I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Sarasota. So I got 2 office locations over there. Basically deal with a lot of real estate agents, a lot of real estate investors. It's basically high net worth individuals, a lot of small
Would you say your
businesses.
specialty is real estate?
Probably, I'd say at least 50% of my practice probably is involved with the real estate. I mean, typically that's where the wealth is. Most millionaires are made through real estate.
Is that a fact?
Yeah,
I heard it was stocks.
No, it's through real estate.
Actually, every time I look it up, it's a different. It gives you like a different stat. I don't know. So it's real estate.
It's definitely real estate. It's definitely real estate. And that's what I see in my practice because I don't see a lot of people that are W-2 wage earners and then over time develop these like massive investment portfolios. Unless you're like you're playing in the MLB and Wall Street.
Well, and those guys usually
are the winners.
Right, but what percentage of those guys keep their wealth? Those guys are heavy earners in their late 20s, early 30s, heavy consumers, Because I have that. It's definitely an argument. I like to argue, so I find whenever I can find an argument, I just get it and I fucking run with it. So there's the argument of a lot of these dads that, because since my son wrestles, they're like, oh, but there's no professional outlet for it. I'm like, that's actually what I like about it, because you don't spend your whole fucking entire life, thinking, all right, I'm gonna make it to the MLB, I'm gonna make it to the NFL. You're like, all right, let's see how many people I can meet, how many connections, best education, and education. Richard and I argue about that all the time. Not that I wave it off, but I think it's more who you surround yourself by.
Yeah.
Right. If you go to these Ivy League schools and everything, you're meeting the next, X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's I don't know. We could go down that education rabbit hole for.
I think it's good. If you can fund your college through the sport,
Yeah.
And then a lot of these guys, I guess they get into like MMA and stuff like that too.
Right. But here's the thing. So then a lot of these football guys, basketball guys, et cetera, they make, millions of dollars. They don't, it comes easy, usually goes easy. Yeah. Right. They don't know how to manage it. I tell you, I didn't, even though I got into business really early, I don't think I became a businessman until I got my ass kicked. Yeah. Right. And had to rebuild it again and really, I get it. I never forget the first time I heard the word overhead, right? It was from some real cheap, some client that I had that was doing really, really well, but he was a cheap bastard. And he asked me, like, well, what's your overhead? I'm like, interesting.
You were like, I don't know.
What
does that mean?
Dude, I'm learning as I go. I mean, I'm just, hiring what I need, as many, it wasn't really like I'm learning as you go, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where we're definitely, some level of education would have helped me for sure, But yeah, back to the baseball guys, so I wonder, how that works. My wife, no matter how many times I tell her, doing a podcast. So I wonder how many of those guys actually keep their wealth. You know what I mean? I wonder if there's you're the
for sure there's
guy.
A stat out there.
There has to be a stat. Cadillac usually knows every stat. So I always look at him when there's a percentage.
I don't know why we wonder.
Well, there's a stat. I think there's something about that guys like in the NFL, like a certain percentage of them by the time, like I think within 5 years, a lot of them go broke.
Yeah.
Because they just don't, they're funding all of these purchases, getting, giving loans to all their friends. Now that's like one of the biggest things. Investing like in all these. Everybody brings them like a business opportunity. It's like, hey,
they're horrendous.
Invest in this swamp land here, and then they're just throwing money out. And
anybody that's seen Ballers knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's.
But I know there was a staggering stat about that. I don't know the exact number, but there,
the large number.
I think Jesus' example actually is a really good one because this is how anybody learns about business. Because if you go to college, they're not going to teach you about how money works and how business works. I mean, I always come back to that scene from the movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield when he goes into the business class and the guy is talking about how they're going to make widgets and all, and he's like, wait a second, who's going to pick up the trash? Like you got to pay off the
absolutely,
and
where are you going to pay off, right?
Yeah, there's all of this these moving pieces, and so the education system entirely inadequately prepares people to handle money and to know how money works. I mean, unless you're taking specific degrees in one of those fields, you're just not prepared.
Yeah.
And so now these kids come out and they immediately make millions with a very short life cycle. I mean, I think what it is, 3 years in the NFL is the
3.5 years is the average.
The average, something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, by the time you figure out what overhead is, you're out of a job.
Yeah.
And so there's really just, it's inadequate preparation based upon what we in society have largely delegated to mainstream education, which is, hey, take my kids and make them ready for the real world.
So then the argument.
You know what? I think there's another factor though. The thing with pro athletes or any individual who's in a profession where they make insane money overnight, it's that immediate change.
Sure.
So if like for most,
there is no other than athletes, right?
Actors. You
okay.
Take it one day, It's
all right.
So I think what happens is for most of us, you start making more money gradually. So just from a finance management standpoint, it's like maybe your next car is a little nicer than your prior car, and your next house is a little nicer than your prior house. But in professional athletes specifically, there's a lot of people that go from absolute like poverty. Right, to extreme, like the epitome of wealth.
Yeah,
overnight.
That has to be a major shock too.
I don't care what you know. I mean, it's just very difficult. You could have gone to like everyone's, the best accountancy and finance management classes in the world, and just that shock is going to make it harder. For
that one girl shows up, says she wants to go to the Maldives, and all of a sudden you're flying private.
And you can actually go to the Maldives. I mean,
you can.
How many of it? Raise your hand. You want to go to the Maldives? Fuck.
First, you got to find out where it is. I got to find out where it is, and then you call it.
But if you have that kind of money, you don't have to know where it is.
That's
you're going to pay the guy that knows where it is. So.
I mean, let's face it. Even going to high school, there's no financial literacy at all. They don't teach you how to budget. They don't teach you that you have to pay. You live within your means. How to save, how to invest.
Man, there is such
simple stuff.
Such a great Twitter exchange on that. I know it's not Twitter anymore, but it's like Joe Robbie Stadium. Okay, it's always going to be Twitter. So, it's like the guy. The first tweet is, you know, I wish, and it's always around tax time that it comes out, you know, and it says, oh, I wish, you know, I wish high school would have taught me how to do my taxes. And then the reply is, first of all, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Exactly.
You know, but listen, I'll tell you what, in law school, they don't teach you how to be a lawyer either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's reality. You know, we joke about that. You get out of school and, you know, somebody tells you to like, hey, can you set this for hearing? And you're like, wait, what? What do you mean set this for hearing? Yeah. So, you know, there's like the staff.
Is that the same as CPA or as a CPA?
It was the worst experience ever. And I started in auditing. It's a true story. And this conference table reminds me because I remember going out to a client. It was freezing cold, going in there, sitting down, waiting for the partner and the manager to come in. And then they're like, okay, grab all the files. And back then we had the red wells. Everything was paper.
Yeah.
We didn't even, I mean, we just were barely having like laptops, no cell phones. There was no Google. There was no nothing. And basically they're like, oh, here's the work papers from the year prior. It's like, you're all set. You're good. He introduced me to everybody. Here's the controller. This is the lady in AR. This is everybody. He's like, okay, you're good. If you need anything, leaves. And it was like literally like trying to put like a 50,000 jigsaw piece puzzle together with no instructions. And I'm like looking through and just feeling like a complete idiot, you know.
So they don't same thing. They don't prepare you for.
No, I mean, yeah, it's like, and I had a conversation about this with a colleague of mine. It's like 85% of what I learned in my profession was in the job.
Yeah,
and then like you said, you know, like you get slammed down, and I didn't really learn business until I owned my own business, had my own employees, was making contracts, was going out there trying to sell our services because I had a mobile X-ray company in the state of Florida for about 7 years, and that was like a Harvard education.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's like, think about it. How long would you have to be in school for them to teach you the subject matter and then like how to do it?
Well, I mean,
in general, because I mean, listen, it's at least in law school, it's a completely different language.
My question for you is this, and I'm just thinking out loud because I know I've run into this. They don't necessarily know whatever law school that you go to where you're going to practice, and so I would think those things vary very much depending on what state you intend to practice in. So I mean, maybe there's that. Because like I know for me, when I teach a contract class in Florida, 4 hours, no problem, plenty of subject. I mean, we can. I live in that neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
But when I go to a different state, maybe it's 2 hours and it's just general concepts of, hey, look out for this, look out for generally because, you know, your state, you guys decide, I don't know, you keep the snowshoes in the attic for some strange reason. Like, I don't know why you do what you do.
Right.
So you think there's a component of that maybe with law school?
I mean, look, there is, but so most every state is pretty similar in terms of general concepts of law. Okay, concepts of, you know, what we call tort, right? Which is like, you know, accidents, negligence, people falling down, contract. Okay, obviously constitutional law is the same.
Sure.
You know, and a lot of criminal procedure when you're in law school, there's two kinds of criminal law type classes generally. The first is criminal law, okay, which you take as a requirement, okay, and that's, you know, the intent, you know, they teach you about intent crimes and mens rea and things like that, right? And then there's criminal procedure, which is largely constitutional. Comes like the Supreme Court has typically decided a lot of this, and then the state governments will codify or not. But so in most states, it's the same. Like the rules for a traffic stop, like don't really vary from state to state. So most states are similar in the way they do things, and then what you'll have is like particular creatures of statute.
You got California. Yeah,
like good example is Florida. In Florida's like I think still might be the only, and I knew this better when I practiced in this area, but Florida's the only state that treats vehicles as what we call a dangerous instrumentality. So what happens is if you loan your car to someone in Florida,
you're like lending them a gun,
and they crash, you are going to be liable, and it's their fault, right? You're going to be liable for under like this vicarious liability theory called the dangerous instrumentality doctrine. Okay, so your insurance will be implicated, and then the driver will also be implicated. You know, typical negligence. You know, you made the mistake. So I often tell people it's bad news to buy cars like in your individual name, okay? Especially if you don't have like a lot of insurance. Like, of course, you're required to carry insurance, but if you purchase the car, you're only required to have like a 10 and 30. What we call a 10 and 30, 10,000 and 30,000. Nobody goes to the car insurance guy and they're like, can you sell me more insurance?
So
In
tell
fact,
me
you're
what you
trying to
got,
figure
yeah.
out how to keep the payment down.
Exactly.
And they ask you shit, and people are so stupid about insurance that when you decline certain coverages, they make you sign forms acknowledging that you declined the coverage. Because later on when you crash, a great example is GAP. Okay, or underinsured, you know, a underinsured or no insured. Okay, so you go there and you're buying insurance, and the guy's like, "Do you want the GAP coverage?" And you're like, "What's the GAP coverage?" And they're like, "Oh, it's just, you know, how much does it cost?" It's like $8 more a month. They're like, "Fuck that. I'd rather pay $72 a month for car insurance than $80." But the gap is that your car is financed, car gets totaled, insurance company says, "Oh, you owe 25 grand. Well, we're going to give you 18 grand for the car." And then people call me and they're like, "Oh, I still owe $7,000. I don't have a car." And I'm like, "Yeah, did you get GAP?" And they're like, "GAP?" They don't even remember being asked. So you email the agent replies, he doesn't even answer you, he replies with the denial, the rejection. Here you are rejecting the $8 GAP coverage. Yep. And that's what GAP is for. That's why they call it GAP. It bridges the gap between what the carrier is going to pay you and what you owe the bank.
Yeah, you got to look at what the coverage you need when you lease is, because they are very much concerned with making sure their liability is
Well, on a
insured.
lease, obviously, that's why on a lease they make you carry more. It's 100 and 300, and especially in Florida. So, I mean, again, you know, we've digressed, but if you're going to buy cars out there, guys, buy it. You know, open a company just for your cars. First of all, it makes it an expense.
The Turo.
Well, I was actually going to go into that. So let's talk about that.
Because because I
that was like literally
typically a lot of people ask me, like, "Hey, you know, I got this car," and you know, you're always going to buy it in your personal name because you're going to get the financing. They're going to pull your credit, your Social Security, and then they ask me, "Oh, should I put it in the business name after? Does that matter? Like if you title it with the DMV in the business?"
No, I mean, so first, you can avoid the financing hiccup by you're always going to guarantee. So right, you know what I mean? So so you're going to guarantee it. You know, there are a lot of banks that won't finance. Like for example, there are some banks, particularly for like high end luxury vehicles, that do those loans, and they'll only do it in your individual name. Okay, and those banks are usually in California, where they don't understand this dangerous instrumentality concept. But here, I mean, my recommendation is you open an LLC. You know, you call it, you know, Cadillac's Cars, right? LLC.
Didn't see that coming.
And then, right. Well, it was low hanging fruit. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I don't begrudge it to you. I'm just saying.
And, you know, you buy the car in the LLC. Okay, the bank's going to make you personally guarantee it, but that's no problem. Like that, you're not the owner; you're a guarantor of the loan. Now the owner is the company. Sure. Okay, and so you loan the car out and they crash. You know, usually the exposure is going to be limited to the assets of that company.
Right.
Right. Which obviously you're going to have insurance as your first layer, but then what else does the company have? Nothing. It's got a bunch of cars and they're all fucking financed.
Yeah.
Right. So like, there's no assets. Now, if you're driving the car, right, we can never avoid our own negligence.
Sure.
So if you're driving the car, your personal assets are also going to be exposed. But this covers at least the loaning cars. Yeah. You know, like people that loan cars and don't know about this, they're fucking crazy.
So the Turo people need to definitely be aware of this. And be making sure to have their cars.
So lease.
Better on that one. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Tax wise, lease versus purchase. What are we looking at? What's better if we're going to go and incorporate? Because again, these realtors usually, turn themselves into a PA, which basically incorporates herself and everything like that. Same as an LLC, pretty much. What you call it, right? So what's better tax wise? Lease
it all depends on business usage of the car. You know, the percentage that you're using it for. Is it a newer car? Is it older? So
Let's call it a new car, and I use it to drive to work every day.
So you just for your business.
Yeah.
You're gonna use, so basically you could probably substantiate a high percentage use of business for that. So I would, in most cases, I like the fact to do the purchase on it because you could take the bonus depreciation and the Section 179 in some cases if it's over 6,000 pounds.
Right.
But if it's not, then you could take the bonus depreciation on it and then deduct it. And
is it true that our friend Biden dropped that to 80% and then next year 60% and then the year after that
it's going to sunset? Unfortunately,
right? That's going to disappear.
Huge, it was a huge benefit.
So who says that Biden did that? Just
Who
out of
says that
curiosity.
Biden did that?
Yeah, because do you know
it's under his administration? I mean,
but I mean a change.
Okay,
to
so
the
who
tax,
did it, Richard?
I don't know.
Trump did it.
I'm asking.
Fucking Trump did it.
No, I'm asking.
Are we actually going to have that Trump did it?
I'm asking about how the change.
Who did it?
I don't know the answer. I'm asking about how the change to the tax code came about. I don't think it was by executive order.
Well, we don't. We could pretty much say that Biden isn't doing anything right now. He can barely walk.
Okay,
right?
I'm okay with that.
Did he walk up to the IRS and say, "Hey, I need you to do this"? I doubt it. Is it his administration that plays that game? Then let's
know that that's how the rule changed. I'm just saying. Right. He said it was going to sunset. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
Okay.
I literally spelled it out before he said sunset.
What that means is that when the rule was enacted, it probably had the sunset provision in it. In other words, no one has to do anything for those things to occur. That's why they're called sunset provisions. They happen without any additional action after the original enactment of the law.
I know that last year or the year before, it would get 100% deducted. It would any vehicle, and now it's 80. Next year, it's 60, and it's going to sunset.
And if the statute has a sunset provision in it, what that means is that it was set to do that from the minute it was enacted. In other words, no new president came in, not Trump, not Biden, no one came in and said, hey, this year it's 100, next year it's 80, and the following is 60. Because the law has a sunset provision, which means it happens automatically.
Understood.
No, I don't think
but who triggers it? No, I think I do.
And that's something we can look up. We'll have to Google it.
So how did it initiate? How did it? So
it could have been part of the package of
who passed
the
it?
Tax and Jobs Act of it could have been. We'd have to look in there because I mean that's
I'm pretty sure that's
2,000 plus
pages. That's where all the bonus
code in there. Right, and when did that statute come into law?
That was the big Trump tax cuts.
Right,
which had the business tax cuts I believe were permanent and the personal ones were
right.
So we have to look at which one.
That's right. In other words, the law was written for this to occur, irrespective of who's president. Do you understand what I mean now?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to how our discussion started, which is it fair to say, is it true that Biden, and the answer is no. So it's not true. The answer is the law, when enacted, was set to do that.
Right. So it's an absolute coincidence
that
my entire adult life, right? Fair to say, my entire adult life, vehicles were depreciated 100%.
Well, you're talking about Section 179?
Mm-hmm.
He has no idea.
The 6,000. Well, that's bonus depreciation. I can't even remember when it came into existence. That's not that's like a
SUVs, right?
Yeah, I don't know how old it is, but I wouldn't say it's not as old as we've been around. I don't think bonus depreciation. That was like kind of a stimulus type of thing. Yeah. So that's in one of the tax packages. When every new administration comes in and they put all this stuff in there.
That would include boats. That would include planes. That would include
for Section 179. Yeah. 6,000 pounds and heavier, and then obviously planes. Heavy equipment, things of that nature.
But to answer the question you were going to ask, yes, it's a coincidence.
It is an absolute coincidence.
I mean, it just happens to be that this particular statute has a sunset provision. And by the way, that's put in when the statute is passed.
And when it's created, that's correct.
And there's been no impotence or leverage applied to do anything to extend it.
100%.
I would say that would maybe be the fair middle ground in this statement.
Right.
It's like it's not a priority to take and do this. And you could maybe understand that with what's going on with inflation, wanting to take and reduce spending, because consumer spending is one of the things that largely have said has driven this. But I think there's other things baked in the cake that are going to put the damper on that. That's a different topic for a different time.
So you're looking at all right. So can we talk a little bit about when incorporating yourself and what are the tax benefits on that? Like becoming a PA or not owning what Richard mentioned. Not owning real estate under your own name, not owning. And I know that that's more of a legal part. As far as liability is concerned, but as far as taxes are concerned. Incorporating yourself, turning what every realtor is told to do, which is turn yourself into a PA, basically. What are the tax benefits?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you have training for your agents and you guys maybe talk about this stuff. I remember many years ago.
I don't, but I would like to. Yeah.
I had to go to a large real estate brokerage, similar to your company here in Sarasota, and just teach the agents on getting, not only becoming like a PLLC, because they were licensed in the state of Florida, but also converting that to an S corp and how to do that and why to do that.
Right.
Because I was getting, even in my office, I was getting real estate agents that were just putting everything on their Schedule C of their 1040 and paying the 15.3% self-employment tax. And then even worse was one lady, she came in like in 2009. She had her taxes done by somebody else, and she winded up getting audited because she produced a loss. Nobody was buying houses in 2009 because the market had
True
crashed.
story. I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
wasn't
you guys
happening.
know. Yeah, you said 2001 you started, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But her husband made a lot of money. He was a doctor, and he was making, I don't know, $400,000 plus, and she had like a $35,000 loss. She was paying her desk fee, paying her lease. She was doing everything, still marketing, still getting her CE credits, all that stuff. And everything was substantiated. She had all the receipts, and they still audited her because she had put everything on her Schedule C and offset everything against her husband's wages. So they it produced a refund, and they got tagged. And she came to our office. She's like, I got all these. Can you help me with this audit? So I said, let's fight it. And this guy was being a dick.
An IRS agent was being.
Exactly.
Wow.
But
So
this guy
should
looked like
record that.
something.
Yeah,
He looked like something out of like a character out of like a movie or something. The guy could hardly see. He had a huge magnifying glass. Look, he had to put every receipt underneath and look at it. And he was like, it was taking forever. And she got so frustrated with it, she just winded up paying it and said, forget it. So then, after that, I tell all my real estate agents to make sure that they're S corps on there, just because you're going to save significantly, and also you're going to.
But can you be a little bit more detailed on that? So like, if I'm talking to a realtor and I'm trying to explain to them, hey, why it's important to turn yourself into a PA, basically incorporate yourself. How does the dynamic work? Like what is it? What am I explaining exactly?
Well, there's two divisions in the IRS. So you have two for examination or audits. So one only pertains to businesses, which would be S corps, maybe partnerships and C corps,
right.
And they don't touch 1040s. And then the other one is just all 1040s. So if you're putting all of your business activity on a Schedule C, then you're giving the IRS and that auditor guy jurisdiction over your business. So I don't like that, personally. So I'd rather have it come in through on a K1, and then they'll just match the K1 that's filed on the transcript with the IRS. So I mean, that would be one of the, besides the tax savings, that would be the other thing, which was to divide the two entities and then put your S corporation activity into a pool of other entities that are much greater than yours. I mean, because versus having just everything on your 1040.
Yeah,
but I think the main talking point that is when you're talking to agents is what he was saying, the tax saving side.
Right.
I mean, and that's really
that's what it's for.
Because,
you're able to
again,
write off
be able to
gas.
itemize and
You're
write
able to
off
write
your-
off.
expenses.
Dry cleaning.
I mean, you shouldn't list
expenses.
them. It's
Well,
business
either way,
expenses.
if you're going to put it on your 1040, you're still going to take the same deductions. The major thing is if you put your activity for your real estate commissions and your expenses on a 1120S, that's the form for the S corp. There's still going to be a profit and loss statement, right? But you're taking a portion of that ordinary income and you're construing it as W-2 wages to yourself.
Yep.
And then you're paying it on that. So let's say you make a $100,000 profit, take $50,000, pay the self-employment tax on the S corp through there. So you're only paying $7,500 versus you're going to get whacked for $15,300 on your 1040 if you don't do that.
Right. So basically, 100% of your wages are taxable because it's shown as ordinary income that you're paying. You're getting
Correct.
paid.
You're just dividing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so now you're just taking the profit portion, what's left over, and saying, I'm going to
Correct.
pay employment taxes, that 15+%.
or your wage doesn't even have to be profit. Just whatever you earmark for
Whatever,
yourself
exactly.
as
No,
wages.
I know. You
Yeah.
should, because that's exactly how I do it, and you
Yeah.
should see how little I pay myself. Honestly, I'm going to have to
Yeah.
go to HR
Yeah.
about it or
And-
something.
and
It's not good, man.
No, we don't want to.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
Yeah, and that's
Stay away from memorializing.
That's the major thing. So I don't know.
underpayment.
Do you train your guys? Like, I would think that nowadays, like everybody, this is kind of like pretty much a standard thing that you would.
I don't give training.
everybody,
I don't
or-
give training on that, and I should. Now talking to you, that's something we should definitely.
Maybe
we
you should
definitely-
not.
Why?
Oh, because
As my attorney,
it's
what-
like
why?
legal advice that you're probably not licensed to give, or
No, I'm not going to give it.
accounting
I'll bring
advice.
somebody in.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not-
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna
Adult
fucking-
supervision.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
Yeah.
just-
No, that's what I meant. No.
do a class on it.
Absolutely
That.
not. I'm absolutely not doing it. I'm saying like bring somebody in and kind of
especially like on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, I'm definitely right.
For the record,
Things like,
for the
how do you
record.
plead to the unlicensed practice? Not guilty. It's like, judge, and it's like, play, and you see fucking Jesus. This is why you legally want to do this shit.
On the big screen, though.
Yeah, I know, but nowadays you get the that's AI. That's not me. That's AI.
Going back.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have read the book, the Millionaire Next Door. Have you read it?
Yes, I remember that one. Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Basically, it through these tax return, IRS studies, and everything, they kind of figure out what like most, multimillionaires drive, right? That's the one that really impacted me. Like, what car do you guys think that most millionaires?
Oh, I've read the book, so
because we're in fucking Miami, so
Yeah, it's not a good indication.
No, we're
in the new money capital of the world.
Yeah, so you hear
Tesla, right?
Yeah.
right here, you think the culture is completely different, right? So everywhere else in the United States, the most popular car is a Ford F-150 pickup truck. That's the most
for
popular,
millionaires.
Yes,
for millionaires.
Number one
Interesting.
car driven by millionaires.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is the thing, right? And you hit on it earlier. The idea of not living within your means, but living below your means. One of the reasons why I get away with paying myself so little is that I actually live on very little.
Right.
I still live in a condo. I still live in a 3-bedroom condo. Nothing crazy or anything like that. All of my, whatever I bring in, I invest as much of it as I can.
Right.
And so that's the idea that to me is the one that's missing from school. It's not about, your checkbook and no, it's the idea that you need to consume less than what you make and allocate as much as you can to invest, because the only way long term to get ahead is to allocate as much of your capital to investment as you possibly can. The investor class has outperformed every way, maybe with the exception of the actors and movie stars and athletes. They've outperformed every wage earning class in this country, hands down.
I know, it's just no fun.
It's no fun
It's fucking
today.
horrific.
It's no fun today. But then when you're done doing the thing that you do, you can tell everybody to get lost because you can actually take and live the way you want to live.
Yeah, I'm gonna
That
work till
freedom.
I'm dead. So fucking die at my desk.
To the week after you're
insane.
dead, right? They're going to
My
be running the
financial
courts on you.
errancy knows no bounds.
Yeah. They're going to run you in there
Fucking
on a hand cart a week after you're dead.
But you really, I mean, we live in a place where the culture is you show your money. I mean, and my people are the worst at that. I mean, they'll be living, in an efficiency with
Concrete backyard with a Ferrari in the.
I saw
in the
it
driveway.
I saw the other day somebody's getting interviewed in a. What we call an efficiency here. I don't know what you call that in New York. Is it an efficiency? Same thing, like a studio.
Studio.
Studio. Is it really a studio
Right.
though?
Yeah,
I mean, an
studio
efficiency.
Not even es un efficiency.
Yeah, it's a efficiency right here, but
that's code for one little room with the toilet and the kitchen in view.
Everything in view, right?
So you can wash the dishes.
So this guy's getting interviewed in an efficiency, right? In a studio, wherever the hell you're at, right? In Australia, I wonder what it's called. But and he has, dude, I'm talking about a lot of gold on him. A lot of gold. Right? Like so
Cuban links, baby.
Yeah, man. So that's the culture, right? So that's the culture. And listen, Richard and Cadillac know that my fascination. I actually just recently found. Did I tell you I found out I'm actually Jewish?
No.
So I'm doing my. Richard's like, yeah, all right, buddy.
I don't have my boots on, and the bullshit is getting thick.
Well, I go to get. I'm in the process of getting my Spanish citizenship, Spain. Right? It's whatever. It's long story, but and so there's a website you go to, and your last name. There's a list of last names, and that means you're like a Sephardic or Sephardic Jew. I'm not Jewish enough to know yet. But yeah, if you're on that list, your family at some point was in Spain and had to leave for religious reasons. Sure. But whatever. Back to the culture of the Jews is usually frugal. I mean, you're basically bred into consuming as little as you possibly can, investing as much as you can. The Chinese, very similar. Right, the Chinese are the same thing. They have the highest level of self-employment. What's the last time you saw a Chinese working for anybody that's not Chinese?
I'll give you one better, man. I mean, and I read this someplace. I'd have to take and check the source, but
so funny.
The second wealthiest people group.
You were towing the line there. We're going to get a lot of commentary on some of this. Jesus got into Jewish culture, and when was the last time the Chinese worked for a non-Chinese? Can you imagine?
Which is true though.
Well, I'm gonna have to edit that one out.
Hey, fuck.
I don't give a fuck. I mean, that's the fact.
Let's toss one more in there in the fire, I suppose, which is this: that the second wealthiest people group in the United States by country of origin is actually the Vietnamese boat people. The people
Vietnamese what people?
The people that escaped Vietnam to escape all that went on there.
Right.
And so
really,
yeah. And so once again, a group of people that don't look like the main they're not the majority in the country. They're obviously a minority. We could kid that they own every nail salon between here and Tibet. but they don't.
I think
own
I think that's racist. What you
Oh,
just said.
absolutely. But here's the crazy thing. Here's the crazy thing.
There you fucked up. I was okay.
Here's the crazy thing, man. They own the nail salon.
You're getting deeper.
and they own the shopping center as well.
Yeah.
They live 3 generations under one roof. They have a culture that is built and set up to encourage underconsumption and allocation, especially really huge real estate investors.
Can you imagine living 3 generations under one roof? I mean, I don't want to live with my grandmother, bro.
No,
I just want you to know that.
Yeah. So listen, like everything
she's
else,
dead now.
like everything else,
I mean,
there's extremes.
Sure.
Right. There's extremes, but my point is that and I'm not only going to focus on my own culture because that's one way you don't get in trouble is just shitting on your own people. But
thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Good tip.
The Cubans are.
You can shit on Cadillacs, people.
Oh yeah,
yeah. White people, it's true. Okay,
right.
so I'll shit it.
Wide open.
We all know who we can't shit on. The Cubans.
Tell us. Wait, I don't know. Can you enlighten me?
Illuminate. Elucidate.
So the Cubans the culture is spend and it's very show offy and that type of stuff which man, it's hard to get out of. If you're in it every day and you're in it, it's hard to teach your kids to live different than what they see every single day and especially with social media and stuff nowadays, man, it's like everything is Ferraris and Lamborghinis and everything like that. What they don't know, and that's the argument I had with. There's a couple buddies that I argue this. My kid has to be a pro. They all in on the kid being a pro athlete. They're all in. Oh, it has to be a pro athlete. I'm like, because that's the way to make money, right? I mean, and these guys come from the culture of these guys are from the hood, and that's what you hear there, and that's what you understand there, right? And I'm like, man, that you don't understand that there's a little Jewish guy somewhere, right, that owns every damn shopping center that you see on your drive to work every single day, right? That makes way more money than any of those guys, right? And forever, not for 3.5 years, not for 6 years, not for anything like that. So if you compare. If we're talking about what we wished our parents would have done for us, right? Cadillac got a lot of that though. Got a lot of that self-employment talk from his old man, but his old man was an old man. He fucking went through it. He was what, 80?
No, he passed away at 72. Man, I was only like 20 years old.
Right, so you got a 50year-old guy giving you business advice.
No, and good advice. I mean, I was getting it too, but my old man wasn't. I mean, listen, God bless him. He was successful in his own way, but God, fuck,
his advice was the wrong direction.
Self-detonated like 8 times. I mean, he set a record for it.
Yeah. So, but the if you're raising somebody, and again, what we wished is like, all right, so how do you consume as little as you possibly can? How much do you invest? Listen, being self-employed is not for everybody, but at the end of the day, most millionaires and billionaires are self-employed in some way or another. So, that type of culture, how do we?
It's a good thing that most people don't think about being self-employed though, because then
we'd have nobody
to work. For most people, they're not self-employed. I mean, most people want to have a defined.
It's not for everybody.
List of tasks that they have to accomplish. Then they want to know, hey, I'm getting a check for X.
Because most people can't administer themselves,
right? But
they just
not just that, but the anxiety sucks.
Sure, no, they can't deal.
I mean,
with that.
I'll tell you what. As it's funny when you're a lawyer or like a doctor. It's like. People think you're a kid and you're growing up, it's like, what do you want to be at like career day? And kids come in and like invariably they're like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor.
CPA is another one.
I want to be an accountant. I want to be a baseball player, right? I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a policeman. Nobody walks in to school.
Well, you just went down in income considerably there.
And nobody walks into school. I know, but those are the careers that people think of. They don't walk into school and they're like, oh, I want to be the regional manager of the Office Depot and control 6 Office Depots. Okay, and that guy's probably doing pretty well. But then with these what I call licensed professions, right, or what do they call like advanced degrees or whatever. When you think about being a lawyer, you don't think about the business side of being a lawyer. So like when I came out of school, I went to work at a big firm, and I'll never forget that, we'd get a file, okay? And you could see that the plaintiff, we did insurance defense, okay? And you'd see that the plaintiff had gotten into like a car accident, and, you know, and he went and saw the doctor. And you'd see, you know, you'd ask him a question, what's the doctor you saw in an interrogatory? And the guy replied, you know, Dr. Valdez, whatever it is. And without even thinking about it, I would turn and say, subpoena Dr. Valdez's office for the records. And since it was a big firm, my assistant was like, yeah, okay, subpoena the office. And you don't even
wish is my command.
You don't even think about the cost of the subpoena. So then when we were leaving, when my former partners and I went to the managing partner to tell him we were leaving, I'll never forget that he looked at me and he said, you know, the thing with you guys, we were three Cuban lawyers, okay?
Yeah.
Or Cuban, you know, heritage lawyers, whatever.
I'm happy to see you're admitting you're Cuban. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Happy for you.
Begrudgingly. No.
Yeah.
And so he looks at us and he says, you know, you guys, you all have this.
You guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you say,
no,
wait a second?
No. No, you kidding me? This is Mr. Cole, bro. You don't say anything other than
He's still
Mr. Cole.
Mr.
Yes.
Are you assigning?
Of course, he'll be Mr. Cole forever. Bro. And he says, no, you know, he goes, you're all very entrepreneurial. You have this entrepreneurial streak in you.
Like saying your people?
So,
or
yeah, the Cubans. Yeah,
okay.
the Cubans. And so, absolutely. And he was like, so it doesn't surprise me. And then he looked at me and he says, the thing for you is that you didn't spend enough time in the classroom. And I had no idea what it meant. Okay. And then when
the classroom was actually there live.
Right. And so when we go out to to open the firm and we're like working, then I realized like 2 years later what he meant, because you know, when you're a young lawyer and you think you're going to do the smart thing and open your own firm, you got to realize how much time you're going to spend being a businessman and not honing your craft. And what do I mean by being a businessman? You got to negotiate the fucking lease for the space. You know, oh, guess what? You know what we need? We need copiers. Okay, when you look, you know, you Google a copier. Okay, it's $80,000. So you're like, I can't spend this. I said, no shit, we'll lease it to you. Okay, so get ready to sign the personal guarantee. And how much are you paying for prints? And how much are you paying for color? And how much are you paying for copies? And are you going to bill that back to the client? You got to set up email, phones. I used to joke that my former partner, and it wasn't true, but I just like to tease him. You think you're gonna go to Best Buy and buy a phone and fucking plug it into the wall and law firm? And it's like no, bro, you need a fucking phone system. Back in the day, it was called a PBX. Now you got voice over IP phones, and then your staff wants fucking insurance. You're like, what the hell is that? Hey, email is down. Email is down is a panic. So you could wake up and spend your entire fucking day dealing with this. You haven't practiced 1 second of law.
Here's the funny thing: that Richard's partner. Former partner was very he hated when you call him aloof, but I could call him whatever the fuck I want. He was aloof, right? So an issue would happen and then Richard was the only one stressing out about it.
Well, because again, and listen.
So the phone would actually go down and it was Richard that had to figure out how to call the guy.
All bullshit aside, we had our things. My former partner is a great guy. But he loves being a lawyer. Like he literally wakes up in the morning and he's like, I'm a lawyer. Another day of being a lawyer. You know, and I wake up and I'm like, fucking A, the fucking emails down the phone, the line of credit, hey, we're overdrawn. You know what I mean? It's like I haven't dealt with one of my clients' problems yet. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been putting out fires all day. So, you know, you have to and you don't get the time to hone your craft. And it's that. So now many years later, like it's funny, I see things that I did, let's say 15 years ago. Like I wrote a contract for somebody. As a buddy of mine, he's a wedding photographer. Okay, I talked to him the other day and he was like, bro, look what I found. And he emailed me the first document that I prepared for him. Listen, bro.
By the way, that's all the contracts I got. He was practicing with me the whole time. So he could say that.
He
could say whatever he wants, but he was practicing with me.
Of course. That's why we call it the practice of law.
We absolutely a guinea pig, bro. Absolutely a guinea pig.
The practice of medicine. No, I looked at it, I opened it, and I was like, delete.
Hey, Mike.
And then I was like, can you delete that on your end?
See this.
Like, oh my God.
So I would call the office.
Fisher Price.
I would call the office sometimes. So when they just started getting a little bit bigger, the firm, they started getting a little bit bigger, and I wouldn't be able to get to them as fast as I could. I would get super fucking pissed off, and you know that I would call the front desk, and I'd be like, they're like, who is it? I'm like, who is it? I'm like, how about it's client 0001? Right, the first fucking client of the firm. How about it's that guy? You know? How about you pass me on right now?
And by the way,
who are you?
But tell them where 0001 comes from, because my former partner, in his incredible efforts to like make people feel good and appease a guy like Jesus.
All right, so there was never 001.
No, he named it. No, all your files start with 001. To this day, in my office, we call them base numbers. You know, you have like a base number you assign to a client, and then if the guy's got 10 matters, it's 0001 dash 01 dash 02. You know, so like Jesus's base number was 001. He called him 001. But there's a great lawyer businessman story. There's this guy, he's a lawyer, he's in his office, and a client walks in.
Oh, there's a story.
No. A client walks in. Well, I guess back in the days when you would walk into a lawyer's office, you know, and you know, the client's looking at the lawyer, he sees him in the desk, and the guy, when he sees him, he picks up the phone, the lawyer, and he's like, yes, no problem. No, we're going to file that motion. Yeah, no, I'm going to object to it. Yeah. Okay, good. See you. We'll talk later. And when he hangs up, he looks up. He's like, how can I help you? And the guy's like, I'm here to connect your phone. You know, so it's, I'm telling you, it's hard out there, bro. Your fucking email goes down, phone goes down. It was a disaster.
And when you were at your dad's office, it was really funny too, because it was like you were in somebody else's office, and that fucking office was amazing.
You're what's called the managing partner. You deal with all the
what's
shit.
What's funny is I wasn't. That's why Jesus. That's what the joke was. My former partner was 5 years my senior. He was actually my immediate supervisor at the first firm that I worked at. So, you know, when we left, out of deference and all that, and because it would look weird for like the 1 year lawyer to be the managing partner. So, you know, he was the managing partner, but I'm the one that had to deal with things like that. So that it was doubly agitating.
So, I mean, sometimes when you're partnerships, I've dealt with this before. There's almost like a stare down as to who's going to take and have to, like, how long are you comfortable with the emails being down? And like, who's going to take and volunteer?
The grenade rolls in.
That's the grenade.
And you look at it, and you look at the other side, and you're like,
I'm not going to jump on it.
Are you gonna jump on it? It's like,
and so you lost that game of chicken with your partner.
I would fucking just jump on it because the stress was less.
I know.
Fucking disaster.
Just deal with it.
Because then coincidentally, you have a guy like Jesus calling you on the cell. Oh yeah, bro, I can't get through. Your office phone's down, bro. You didn't pay the bill. I'm like, oh my God, bro. So now the blood pressure's like this.
I don't want to get that call.
Yeah,
those days.
I mean, like the one thing like that nobody talks about budgeting for is the Tums associated with, you know, the antacid.
It's horrific,
and especially, you know, a business where if you don't kill, you don't eat. You don't bring customers in, nothing happens.
It's hard, man.
It's a tough thing, but I think
I wouldn't trade it for the world, though. I wouldn't trade it for self-employed. I know Richard always from the beginning, he fucking hated every second of being self-employed. Like it's probably because I don't think I'm employable either. Like, where am I gonna? A guy with severe
has a real problem with authority.
So lack of options,
unbelievable,
enormous problem with authority. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, doesn't follow directions. I mean, like where am I gonna go? You know, this is it. This is the only option.
Is your lack of options has fueled your contentment. In the field that you.
So people listen. In 2008, everybody was. I think something like 80-something% of real estate companies closed down. I couldn't close down. Like I just, what am I going to do?
You know what's funny is that when this guy went through that like contraction and things went from like
that's a good way to put it.
Multiple offices with fucking airplanes flying around to the offices to like, you know, one office. I would go to like Orlando or St. Pete. I'd go back to my law school for something, this and that. Wherever I was, I'd see like a realty company sign, and I'd take a photo of it, and I'd send it to this guy. I'd be like, "Look, bro, Keller Williams, location number 3064, crushing it." Be like, "Fuck you."
You know, it's funny.
I would expect that as a response.
And then
he's like, "Yeah, why don't you tell him about, you're about to go with the time I told you to close your business."
Well, which time? Well, and then when I started getting letters from Keller Williams and these bigger companies, the first fucking idiot that I would send it to, like here now, look who wants to do business. Look who wants to turn into a fucking Keller Williams.
That was coming from their DEI department. You just didn't know. They were like, let's get ourselves a little Mexican realtor, and then they were like, look at this guy, Jesus Castanon.
I think that one right there you're gonna get in trouble for.
So let me ask you a question, and you can answer this too because you're self-employed. But was there ever a time when you had to pay everybody?
Yes.
And you went home with no money.
Of course.
Yeah.
Was there ever
all
a
the
time?
time.
That's
Fucking
the
A.
truth.
Well, that's what got me in
That's
trouble.
what
All the time.
like he's talking about. It's, being in business is not for everybody.
So
that's-
I ate up into all my reserves, which basically almost bankrupt me, because I was paying everybody. I was like, oh, well, 2008 crash, how long can it last? 3 months, 4 months, 5 months? Let me just continue to pay everybody, not pay me, and just, so everybody in the office, so I changed the way I do business too. Everybody in my office is very little salary, high bonus. If I'm doing bad, you're doing bad. Those days of me sitting here, and that's why I did it, because I remember sitting here and I'm like, bro, my world is ending.
Yep.
And everybody's fine. Everybody out there is fucking. Everybody out there is fucking happy as shit.
You're thinking you're living high on the hog.
Right,
Like,
what it didn't create was a sense of urgency for my entire team. Right, I was the only one with my head on fire. Right, I was the only one super stressed out. And now you know what, dude? If this company does bad, everybody's doing bad.
That's the biggest thing that I took when I read Charlie Munger's book. That was the biggest thing I took
Oh, really?
out of it. So Charlie Munger is one of his partners. So Charlie Munger said
ugly son of a bitch.
As it turns out, they delegate everything that they do except one thing: compensation. They always make sure that they're very careful with how they compensate their people to make sure that their best interest and the person they're paying's best interest are aligned. So, like like you said, if they do well, then the person does well. If they're not doing well, they're going to be plenty of incentive there. For lack of compensation.
I think y'all need to be on the same team. Sure. So, how'd you get into the CPA thing? Like, you woke up one day and said, or were you guided into it by a family member? Because I always wonder how people pick CPA, because that's a hardcore. You got to be smart with numbers,
self-loathing.
No, I knew it out of the business track, because you had like marketing and finance. I knew accounting was the one that I wanted to take because it was the most versatile. But my parents were business owners too.
Okay.
When I was growing up, so I saw that, and I used to see the accountant come in.
So it was what career would help me be self-employed the most, I guess, or would be more.
She was doing well, and then I got my first job was a worst job. I used to count money in a bank vault in New York.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool.
It was terrible because I was claustrophobic.
First day.
Like one day you see the vault open and it's cool.
Yeah, the problem was I was claustrophobic. There was no windows, and then I would get locked into this like small. It was like smaller than this office here, and we'd count all the money, all the deposits from like Hess and UPS and all that stuff. It was terrible. But then I got promoted from there, and then I started to work with the auditors in the lending division because they used to look at some of the loans.
Right.
And I kind of I was getting some reimbursement from the bank to take more banking and accounting classes. So that's kind of how just naturally gravitated to that.
Yeah. And do you regret it, like Richard? Sometimes, like I should have.
I don't now. I did. Like when I first started.
Stage?
When I was working for KPMG, I was miserable.
Right.
Because everybody was a prototype. Everybody talked the same way. And,
clone.
It was a great polishing school and learning how to write memos and kind of conduct myself in a professional setting.
Right.
But I hated it, and
it's very rare. You know how so IT guys, right? IT guys are usually weird sons of bitches and very risk averse and everything like that. CPAs are not usually weird, but they're very risk averse because that's what they're trying to do. Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. So it's very rare that you get an entrepreneur.
Right.
See, you know what I mean? Like you're usually born with one side of the brain. You could count really good. You're not really risk averse. You know what I mean? So
you are risk averse.
You are risk averse. Yeah. Right. So it's one of those things that usually so it's rare to see. It's definitely rare to see that. So what's the best advice we can give these realtors right now? Is there anything that stands out that you've seen mistakes made or anything like that, or just maybe not even realtors, just businessmen? Like, is there some mistake that you see over and over again that kind of we could help them avoid?
Yeah. Like, if you can't do your own accounting, don't try to do it.
Right.
Pay the money to get it done.
Yeah.
You can get somebody fairly cheap. There's a lot of easy software programs to link your bank account to. I get a lot of messes at the end of the year, and it's going to cost a lot of time and energy on our part. We don't like to deal with it. So just pay somebody to do it and keep you organized. It's going to help you take advantage of getting all the deductions that you need to and not missing things. A lot of times you're going to miss.
So what gets people in trouble, right? So like, how bad of an asshole do you got to be to go to jail for tax evasion? I mean, how blatant do you have to be? I mean, because It's
trying to find that fine line of how much.
Let's see how far I can go. No,
the number one thing, it's like that, ladies. The number one thing is putting your real estate activity on a Schedule C of your 1040 in and of itself, and if you're producing a loss, is going to be a red flag. You know, there's a high chance that you're going to get audited. That's typically the number one thing. The other thing is, I think just not matching your 1099s. So if you're getting your commissions and you're not matching that top line, and for whatever reason you miss one,
right?
And maybe they're getting from multiple different brokers. I don't know what their situation is. So making sure that 1099 that you're getting from your broker for all your commissions are all included on that gross, because the IRS will match that out.
Yeah, so I've gotten audited by the IRS, and obviously, listen, anybody who gets audited by the IRS,
stressful, yeah.
Well, yeah, and you're always gonna, I'll take one, please. You're always gonna, thank you, sir. Nobody does everything perfect, so if they're coming for you, they're gonna get you. You know?
Yeah. J. Edgar Hoover says, "No man can withstand a thorough investigation."
Really? That's true.
That's a great quote. I never heard that one.
Yeah, that's very, very.
Well, let's put it this way: I heard a federal judge say that J. Edgar Hoover said it. So I didn't check.
You didn't fact check.
Because right now we got some commenters that wasn't J. Edgar Hoover, asshole.
By the way, I'm very happy that the negative comments have come back a little bit. Not as much as I would like, but we've had a little.
Don't
uptick.
worry, you're going to get some today.
Yeah, but we haven't gotten the clips out.
You've done an able job of offending multiple
today was
demographics. Large swaths of the population.
Today we offended several people. So, what the hell are we talking about right now? I was in the middle of a question.
There's another one coming that just came out actually early, and you might know something about this. What do you guys know about the monetized installment sale deal?
I don't know.
Did you guys ever come across that with any?
What's this? With the crypto stuff?
No, the monetized installment sale is there's like these promoters that are putting out there. It's section 453, and it's a basically they're using like a dealer of assets, and a lot of real estate transactions to defer the capital gains for like 30 years. We're using this strategy, and then the IRS put it on their dirty dozen like last year. I think it was last year or the year before. And then now they just did a proposed regulation this month, and then next month it's going to be like, I guess they do like a public comment on it or something like that. But that's a huge one, and I can imagine like I know a lot of people were doing deals, real estate deals in California using that. And then I would imagine here in Florida too, because there's a lot of.
I've never heard of it.
No, it's huge.
I haven't heard of it either. So what was it? Is it?
So monetized
installment doesn't mean
sale.
that I don't know, but the Cadillac's never heard of it. Now I'm really impressed.
I mean, I may know.
It must not be true.
No, it's very likely true, but I mean, so I may just know it under another name.
Made it
So
up.
we've got the 1031, right? So the 1031.
To see if we pretended to know what we're talking about. Like, oh yeah, I heard about that.
So this one, there's a couple of promoters of this. I think it was like 2 or 3 through the country that were handling these, and they would use. It was like there's a lender party, there's a dealer of assets party, and then there's the buyer and the seller. And it basically, the seller would, through all of these documents that were, it's simultaneously done in closing, would transfer the property temporarily to the dealer of assets. That dealer of assets would,
to get them past the time, to make sure that they comply with the time period in the 1031.
Yeah, it was a schematic that we were doing to like basically put it in where they were putting enough money into an escrow account to pay the interest payments over 30 years to defer that gain, and then the seller would walk away with like 95% of their proceeds, and then they could use that for any purpose that they wanted. And you could do it you don't have to have real estate. You could sell a business doing that, or you could any capital asset.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the IRS just
and for real estate they knocked that out.
That was a big one for real estate. Yeah, because sometimes the 1031 exchange doesn't always work. I mean,
the time periods are
time periods. It's a competitive market. You got and
it puts you at a competitive disadvantage going in when you negotiate, because now you have to disclose on the way in that, hey, look, I'm doing a 1031 exchange. I got a gun to my head. I've got to close this in this time period. And a lot of real estate assets. I mean, the due diligence periods can be.
I would have thought.
Actually, I wrote a class with this guy on commercial contracts and on why due diligence periods are so long. Right? Yeah. You have these very long due diligence periods. So I mean, if you're not ready to go with assets lined up when you're closing, the ability to potentially close in time or do the research necessary to close the asset well is really precluded. It's really limited. So that's.
I'm surprised you haven't seen this. Yeah, because.
No, I mean, I know
appreciation of these.
I know the
properties.
Delaware trust things have become a big deal, where they're like the mutual fund, almost like a REIT for 1031s. I've seen a lot of people doing that, but no, I hadn't heard that model.
Can you break down? So, you know, we've had this ongoing argument in our comments on whether, and believe it or not, I know this is like whether the Earth is flat or not.
You're probably gonna get some clients.
Whether the Earth is flat or not, right? But the renting versus buying. What are the tax benefits on one versus the other? So there's people that continue to say that it's just better to rent. You know, I unless there's some major tax benefit that I don't know of. I mean, what are the tax benefits for?
Yeah, $5,000 a month to rent for as opposed to a $10,000 mortgage payment. You remember that one? That beauty.
Yeah, right.
That genius.
Yeah. So how do we explain the difference to people?
I mean, there's the theory that having your own primary residence as your biggest investment and using it as an investment vehicle is like not the way to go. Like the wealthy, you know, you hear that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it should be your only investment, but but part
of your portfolio.
It's definitely it should be part of your portfolio. So or how do you? So maybe I shouldn't guide you. Do you consider there to be a benefit to renting tax wise than buying?
Well, I'm renting now,
right?
But I'm waiting for the market right now.
Right.
I think maybe the rates are up right now, but I'm waiting for like maybe this time next year to go back in and buy something. Right. I mean, I just feel like I'm throwing my money away. It's just kind of an emotional thing for me.
Right.
I mean,
by renting, you mean?
By renting, yeah. You know, I'm like, I don't even own this, and I'm throwing all this money away every month.
Right.
But you kind of
tax-wise, just straight up tax-wise.
I mean, it all depends, you know, and how much mortgage interest, what's your rate, you know, what's your real estate taxes? Can you jack that up enough where you're going to get, you know, you're going to fall outside of the standard deduction? And I think right now it's like almost 80% of people right now, since they raised the standard deduction, are falling under the standard deduction. So the mortgage interest and the real estate taxes are not really benefiting them. Every deal is different with the house. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I mean, I think but you especially get a lot of pushback on this concept because of your business.
Sure.
You know, it's like, dude, you're an oil company and you're telling people that electric cars are bad. You know, it's like, of course you're telling people that. So, you know, so you get a lot of that. And then a lot of the comments, and I get it, this is part of the bitterness that people are feeling in the country is like, yeah, I know it's better, asshole, but I can't afford to buy.
Well, get the fucking work.
You know? Yeah,
work harder.
Mean, you know,
work harder. That whole thing. I don't understand that. Right? I mean, we're in the United States of America. You could make as much money as you want, as little as money. So then say that, right? Don't make an excuse out of it, right? Well, I can't because I don't make enough money. Are you working hard enough? Have you made the right decisions?
Yeah, we've discussed this once before, bro. People are not. My old man used to tell me that people are rarely big enough to like acknowledge like their own shortcomings. It's much easier to be like, it's better to rent now because, you know, the reality is that fucking rates are too high or this and that. And it's like, no, man, it's not better to, you know, by and large.
Yeah.
Unless
it's an isolated instance.
Right. Are there scenarios in which it might be better, you know, but as a general rule, you know, it's probably not. And rates are high now. We're used to low rates, but free money, you know, was not sustainable. I mean, I got in my drawer my old man's mortgage from the house that I grew up in, and it was like 14% is the rate on it. Sure. Yeah. And it was like in 82 or whatever when he bought it, 82.
That's low for 82.
Like, yeah. You know, and it was like,
80 was 16.63, 82 we got to 21%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's like
was a bad year.
You know, it's like it's just these things of, you know, it's like people are used to historically low interest rates, and they're still low by, you know, historical standards.
I remember in the 80s, it was like 14, 15%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, my old man's mortgage, I have it. It's for, you know, the note, I have it.
Went as high as 18%.
18, and for some
and there was still appreciation.
21%.
And this is conventional money, not hard money.
Too. They were still buying.
This is really the thing, because I think what people have there's two big problems here. One, victimhood is everybody loves to be a victim right now. That big victimhood is what it's all about. Yeah. The market. Look, the reality of it is you only have one choice that leaves you any autonomy to ask yourself what the hell you're going to do about it when anything goes sideways. Oh, the market, what are you going to do about it? You can't afford it, what are you going to do about it? Back to Jesus' point. But I think that people look at it on a day-to-day, well, what's the payment today versus the payment tomorrow? Here's the thing that I always look at when it comes to the primary residence. It's the only place I know of where you can make a $250,000 capital gain as an individual, and your Uncle Sam are all of our favorite shared relatives, and sitting there at the end of the day saying, hey, I see you made a little bit of money. Where's my taste? It's the only place where Uncle Sam doesn't come in and look. He said, "Oh, you made $250,000. Go ahead, keep it. Don't worry about it." Yeah. And so, I think the long-term look at it. When
Although, right, that was one of the things Biden was going to change.
What?
I'll give you that one.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Right. Go ahead. No, finish your point, and we'll talk about that.
So, the idea that on a day-to-day basis, what's going to take and leave less money in my pocketbook? Well, folks, if we think like an employee, that's how an employee thinks, paycheck to paycheck. If we're thinking like the person who's going to be living our life, future us, 30, like I intend to be living my life 30 years from now. It's still going to be me. I'm going to be stuck with whatever this guy does today. I'm going to be stuck with the consequences of that. Well, I take a look at what I bought my property for, and I take a look at what it's worth right now, and I know that I owe Uncle Sam not a nickel on all of that money. And believe me, I will sell it the second I get close to that $500,000. I say $500,000 as a married couple. It's a $500,000, right? I'm out, and I'm going to take and go into the next one, because why would I lose that benefit? So, not roping in all the total benefits of the wealth building capacity that's there. I said it before to you, and you were careful to say, don't use the HELOC money this way, but to take and people taking and pulling money out of their asset of their home to take and fund the starting of businesses and other asset acquisition. I know for me, I couldn't afford. After 2008, I lost everything, and I had to start from scratch. I mean, I lost everything. And I had to partner with people to get my first. I didn't buy my house first. I bought my first investment property first. And I took and parlayed the income from that. I live way below my means.
Right, but if you would have
bought more.
I know how many properties you own. I'm not gonna, get your business out there. Unless it's in your book. Is it in your book or no?
I don't know. All right. I don't remember.
Well, whatever. I'm not gonna get. He owns a shitload of property. It's the technical term, right?
It's a lot.
So if you were to have been raised in Miami, you would have just owned one big mansion.
That
with all the
with like an 8-car garage.
He would have lived in a $10 million So
it's a particular type. It's not even overconsumption. It's called conspicuous consumption. Like I need to consume in such a way that I show everybody. And this, I think, is one of the other issues with social media that exists, is that everybody's life is on display, and so the jealousy that generates is a real. Like you're sitting here saying, "I'm working my ass off. Why are they going to
the cancer that is social media, man?
It really is.
God bless, it's so bad.
It really is.
It's got its benefits, but I mean, at the end of the day, we haven't learned as a society how to deal with it.
What's new in society?
It is. We haven't learned to deal with it psychologically in a healthy way. Like how to look at something and say, "Oh, well, that's probably not true." Like
a few years ago, they had a new iPhone come out a few years ago, and it looked just like the prior model. Mm-hmm. And they had them side by side, and it's like, these phones look alike. How will anybody know I'm better than them?
Exactly.
True.
It's a thing.
Oh man,
it's a thing.
Well, and to your point, and talking about the phones too, it's like we're practically renting these phones too, because when you go in to turn it in, they take. The last time my daughters needed a phone or whatever, like, oh, your plan is up. They're making you pay the lease payment within there. And we're going to a society where everything's being rented now. They're trying to get everybody in these little boxes and these high rises. And, who's making the money off of that?
So
the guy that owns the building.
I've never once turned in a prior iPhone. I literally have in my house a stack of old phones going back to like the original.
I got them here because I don't want.
No. I don't give a shit.
There's no for like collectible purposes.
No. I do it because listen, bro. I just don't. My phone is like my woman. Don't touch it. Okay.
Well, I don't want somebody else putting his hands on her.
I also don't believe that they can't get in and get all your information and stuff. Yeah.
It's like it's we erased it. Yeah, sure you did, bro.
Yeah.
So I have them all.
Yeah. So anything else tax wise that you can think of, man? Because you're going around podcasts and giving these tidbits. So I kind of want to see.
This is one I was thinking about on my way here to you guys, and you might know a lot about this. The blockchain and what it's going to do to real estate, and intermediaries and fractionalizing.
Yeah, I stopped drinking that fucking Kool-Aid, to be honest.
Smart contracts.
Tokenization is still
tokenization of this stuff. What's your take on this here?
I love look, for me, the big issue really is for it to do what I think it's really capable of. It's going to require the SEC to take and modify how arduous they make the process for diversified ownership. I mean, realistically, tokenization shines best as a Reg A+, where you're able to go to regular, non-accredited investors, because what it does is lower the cost threshold to entry. So all of our folks that say, hey, I can't invest in real estate.
The regular guy, yeah.
Well, now, if I can lower that cost threshold, for me, in my mind, as I look at real estate, that's always been the biggest hurdle. It's the reason why I had to bring partners in to get started, was the cost threshold to entry. If I could lower that, well, it lets me hit on, one, broaden the base of who's investing in real estate. Two, it allows me to do something that I'm super passionate about, which is exposing younger people to investing in real estate. So one of the things I do, I've done it with Jesus before, is we'll volunteer and go speak at schools, talk about real estate.
Great, yeah.
And so what they do, and I don't know if you remember this, when I would talk, they'd give me a gift card for Target or for Starbucks or something like that and say, hey, whichever kid is most engaged, give them this gift card. I'm saying, so wait a second, I'm gonna come up here and talk about underconsumption, about not wasting your money buying retail stuff, and you're gonna give me a way for them to take it. And I said, wouldn't it be amazing if I could give them, instead of a $10 gift card, I could give them $10 on an appreciating asset that's throwing off positive cash flow? What would kick this kid's life off as an investor better?
Yeah, the concept was great.
Of that.
Listen, the concept is great, and when you're saying it, it really seems like the right instrument. It's just the dirtiness around it.
Oh yeah, no,
I mean, right now it's just as dirty as
the lack of integrity.
Crypto bros, man.
Yeah, no, they are really
just the amount of fucking weirdos that got into that business.
It's not even weird. They are morally,
they're fucking weird.
Morally free of integrity is unfortunately something I've seen a lot.
And weird, and they dress weird, and they eccentric,
honestly, they could dress in fishnet stockings, and I don't care.
That's pretty much what it was.
Sadly,
what I saw at those crypto conventions.
Honestly, with the
I mean, on certain people, there's nothing wrong with fishnet.
I would, in fact, I think it should almost be mandated, but not the crypto bros, not the crypto bros.
Certain people.
There were no crypto.
You didn't assign gender there. I like that. I like where you went with that.
It's a
self-awareness, baby.
I think that the lack of one of the essential things to any business and to any country is the idea of a shared integrity, like the idea that we know in this country that there's a reasonable expectation that if you sign a contract with somebody, that there's a good likelihood that not only will that person have to uphold it, and if they don't, the law is right there to give you a set of rules that everybody kind of has to comply with. It's why this country functions as well as it does in developing world countries. That lack of integrity, that lack of this guy's going to get a gun and be able to just take and make me do whatever he wants. We don't have that. And with the people that I dealt with in the crypto space, that was the big thing that was lacking, is everybody was out individually for themselves, burning the bridge they didn't care about. You know, it's shame on you. We pulled one over you on you kind of thing. And there's really no meaningful way until those folks are out of the space, or other people come in that do have some integrity to really look at it. But there are players in the space that are making this work. Right. And doing it successfully. So it's a matter of weeding through. Kind of like what you have to do.
It's going to take a while. It's taking a big step back.
What you have to do with contractors in Florida.
Yeah, I know. But
how many contractors do you have to go through to find a good one?
It's taking a huge step back. So how and will it recover, and when? And
the thing is that it's like anything else. Anytime you're gonna tell like the established order of things to go and fuck themselves so brashly, it's going to be a problem. And it's like, we have friends, we have a chat, the crypto chat, that it's like, some of those guys in there, and they're all great humans, but they'll tell you with a straight face that it can't be regulated. It's like, it can't be regulated. It's like, listen, bro, your friends are all in jail. Okay. So, I mean, there's plenty of regulation. It's like, listen, the notion that fiat currency is going to disappear, I just don't buy it. The banking system is going to collapse. It's like, guys,
those are the extremists. Like everything else. There's extremists and everything. What was it that you got cut off a little while ago? You're gonna say, "Oh, let's go back to something about Biden that Biden did."
Oh, that there was
things that Biden does do.
No. He was, again. It was something that the administration had proposed, which was a tax on unrealized gains.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Okay, and we even discussed. Now again, it was it's how all these regulations start. They're like, no, it casts a very small net.
Yeah, of course.
So it was something like it had, and just the translation of oversimplification is that if your house, okay, and I think it couldn't be your primary, but if you own a property and the property appreciates, let's say, by more than $100,000 in a given year, whatever the number is, you're taxed on the excess between, like, I think it was 25 grand or 250 grand and whatever the number is. So just for round numbers, if your property increases $10 for the year, you don't sell it. Okay, you get like a free $2.50, and then you're going to get taxed on the remaining $7.50. Now, this didn't apply to every taxpayer. It was, again, and that's how it started. It was like, no, this is only for the super wealthy and these ridiculously wealthy properties. But that would be one of these moves that I would agree are part and parcel of the current administration's mindset of the demonization of wealth, and kind of, you know, it's like, if you have a lot of money, you must be a bad person, you know, and we got to take it all from you. You got to pay, you know, all this money.
That's a narrative that's out there. And I mean, it's troubling to me because people forget. I mean, it's like talking about how the rental market was out of control, whatever. So I was like, okay, so people are putting guns to people's heads and saying, you must pay this rent. No, somebody's coming in and willfully offering this much rent. It's
or willfully paying. They may not be offering, but they're agreeing to.
They're agreeing to pay, at least. I mean, not with a gun being held to anybody's head. The idea that somehow now a third party who doesn't really have a stake in this thing is going to take and make a better decision than the two parties that are involved. Look, I mean,
no, just how about during the pandemic when, like, you couldn't evict people?
Right.
You couldn't.
Well,
evict
that just
people.
ended not too long ago.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny about it is that you hear, and here's the problem: any opinion or position that is, let's say, beneficial to or sourced from the minority on any issue is like more scrutinized. So it's like, you know, you have a lot of people out there that were renters, and admittedly they were struggling, and it was a weird time. Sure. The government was shutting down restaurants, right? We have some restaurants. It's a painful business, and so, you know, these are people that they live paycheck to paycheck, right? Like by the way, like a lot of Americans do.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, you know, when they shut down the business, your work, the government doesn't let you work. So, you know, all of a sudden the courts here and the, you know, the governor even and you know, others, they were like, well, we're going to prevent evictions. You know, and then what was happening is that there's, like anything else, it's the pendulum. Initially, it's like, hey, I can't pay my rent because my job is shut down. Right. And then it turns into, how long can I get away without paying my rent? Yeah. And what happens is that nobody thinks about, you know, the property owner. You know, and the property owner that has like a mortgage to pay and these kind of things. And it's like, you don't even want to think about it, because it's like the number of people that own the properties versus the number of people who rent property, right, is radically different. So, you know, people are like, everybody feels bad for the renter, you know, but nobody feels bad for the owner because, you know, like they have money.
Well, I mean, and it's going a little bit further because, okay, now that owner can't pay the debt service. The debt is held by a bank.
Right.
The primary investor in that bank is your grandmother's pension fund. Yeah. So grandma's pension fund is now underperforming because of all this trickle down. It's one of the reasons why I love that book, Basic Economics, the idea of the law of unintended consequences, right? Thomas Sowell is always a big fan of that. And nailing down the idea of like all these great ideas like rent control. What could be better than the government controlling the rent? Okay, every place it's ever happened, what's happened? Rents have become incredibly more unaffordable. There's been more slums, more buildings torn down to make parking lots, and more condo conversions. That's what happened every place.
No, what's funny is that you see it, and again, this is something Jesus and I argue about all the time, which is what I think is the concept of consistency. Okay, so we have a friend, you know, he'll remain nameless, and the guys, he thinks that he is a capitalist Republican. That's what the guy thinks. And yet he rents, okay? And so a few months ago, the guy comes into my office, beet red, incensed, and he really gets like upset about everything. And he's like, my fucking landlord had the balls to raise my rent, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know, and he's like, isn't there some rule now about how much you can raise the rent and how much notice? And by the way, there is such a rule.
There is.
So as a function of the pandemic now in Florida, if you're going to raise a tenant, like you're only able to raise rent, I want to say, don't quote me, but it's random percentage, it's up to 10%. So if you're going to raise the rent by 10%, you don't have to give any advance notice, basically. You could just say, hey, at renewal, your rent, you know, if it was 1,000, now it's, you know, 1,100. Yep. Okay. Now, if you want to raise the rent to 1,250, you have to provide, I think it's like 90 days notice to the tenant. Now, in and of itself, if you are aware of the law, right? If you have a lawyer that you talk to, and so, okay, you issue the notice, no problem. Like, that's one step short of rent control.
Sure.
But what's funny is that my outraged thinking he's Republican friend, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, bro. So imagine that you own the apartment. So now now you want the government. No, fuck, I don't even use the protection line. I'm like, a guy like you that aspires to own property and you're going to be a fucking millionaire and all this shit that you tell me every day. Now you're okay with the government telling you how much you can charge for your own place and when.
Yep.
Right? And then you see his face kind of like turning.
You see the dissonance,
and it's like, and it's
the dissonance in his brain,
it's like, you know how,
causing the aneurysm.
And what's funny is it's like you don't actually think of that. Like most people's positions are, if I had a
was it
law
the guy
school,
we were texting with today?
Yes, yes. And I had a law school constitutional law professor that would say that where you stand depends on where you sit.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the boot. And I tell Jesus this all the time. We talk about that. Listen, when the government's boot is on your neck, it doesn't matter if it's the left boot or the right boot.
They also.
Okay, and so the reality of the matter is that it's like these concepts like rent control, things like that. These are contrary. Like people here in the United States, they call you a communist. In Miami, that's the #1 insult. You're a fucking communist. Meanwhile, your kids are in public school. Okay, you use the fucking post office. Okay, you use in like these government benefit programs, etc. And it's like, guys, those things don't exist in Adam Smith's capitalism. Mm-hmm. Nobody. And by the way, Adam Smith is a guy that wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations, right? Where he's like the father of capitalism. He's rolling over in his fucking grave
Thomas Jefferson
with the
as well.
things that we have.
Yeah.
So it's like it's bullshit. That like that's how people really think about things. People think about things when they're affected. So, my rent got raised. Oh, my landlord's an asshole. It's fuck, the interest rates just went through the fucking roof, buddy.
Yeah.
And what I'm paying on my mortgage now went up if I have an adjustable rate mortgage. So guess everybody's got to pay more.
Or if he's on a term loan, he's got a refi now in 12 months, and he's on a term loan, and now he's looking at his debt service. Yeah. But I mean, I honestly think that the way that they chose to do it was really splitting the rent control baby about as well as you could and keeping it as free market. You said 90, it might have been 60. I think it's 60 days, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's 90. But just taking and saying, all right, fine, you know what? There is a spike in this. Let's give the tenants at least the ability to plan out for this.
Great idea.
It's really not a huge burden to the landlord. Hey, here's our intent, and spell it out. I thought it was really well done, rather than sitting here saying you can't charge more than X. And I mean, I think that's really like what the nuance needs to be of how do we take and keep everybody as empowered as we can without having to come in and intervene. They don't physically have to intervene with that unless it's a problem after the fact. Say, well, wait a second, here's the statute. What did you do?
And it's funny, you mentioned earlier the law of unintended consequences on all these kinds of changes. I'll give you guys an example of a great one. So last week at the FREC meeting, we had a workshop after about preparing the or taking comment, taking suggestions. Many stakeholders came in on the preparation of what's going to be the promulgated affidavit for all Florida purchasers to sign regarding the Conveyances to Foreign Entities Act, right? So as of July 1 in Florida, if you are buying real property, I don't care if you're, a corn-fed Iowa farm boy, you're buying property in Florida, you're going to sign an affidavit that says that you are not a foreign principal as defined under the statute. Okay, and if you are a foreign principal and for some reason the statute doesn't apply to you, right? Like let's say you're not buying farmland and you're not buying property that's within 10 miles of critical infrastructure, you are also going to sign the affidavit saying, and it's little boxes, okay? It's like, I'm not a foreign principal, statute doesn't apply. I am, but here's the exception. I'm buying, this property that doesn't qualify, right? So we're going through this form because the statute put it on the Florida Real Estate Commission to come up with this affidavit, okay? So it was fascinating to watch because, all the major title insurance underwriters were there with their proposed form, okay? Major law firms were there with their proposed forms. And, everybody comes with like their theories on it. And so one big push, I literally just got an email on it today from a lawyer at a big underwriter, is that cash buyers are pissed off that they have to sign this affidavit because cash buyers ordinarily only need to sign a closing statement. You can even do it like scanned copy will do, but now you're having to have a notary.
Oh, wow.
Right, for the affidavit, you have to like have, you know, a document notarized. You got to arrange for a notary, and there's this expense and the whole thing. And some of these people were proposing that we adopt the ability to sign an attestation, right, which is unsworn. Okay, so you don't need the notary. Okay, and so that's a lot of these people are pushing for this. But here's the law of unintended consequences: is that this lady gets up, and you could tell she was very well prepared. I mean, this lady came, she just looked to the nines. Okay, and she comes up to the podium, and she says, you know, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm from Carlisle in D.C., you know, and they had come down from Washington, D.C. Carlisle's a big REIT, like a big investment firm. And they were saying that, like, the way the affidavits, everyone's form of affidavit would make it impossible for big investment firms and, like, funds, basically, to invest in Florida. Because many of the limited partners in the funds could be these foreign principals, okay? And the statute hinges on the amount of control that the foreign principal exercises over an LLC purchaser, right? Or an entity purchaser. So a lot of people, especially in Miami, some agents, again, will not be identified, but they're like, oh yeah, Richard, bro, I have an idea, man. Why don't we put it under a company?
Scarface.
Can we buy it under a company? And I was like, you figured it out, my man. No. You did it. You sitting right here in my office today, you came up with the fucking solution.
The workaround.
None of the 300 lawyers that work for the governor, no one in legislation, no one staff, none of the clerk, none of the people thought about that. You found the workaround. And he was like, are you being sarcastic? And I was like, yeah, I'm being fucking sarcastic. So even if you're, you know, you don't fix the problem by buying under a company, and the statute says, it's like, by the way, if you buy under a company, if you have more than 5%, then you exercise control, 5%. Jeez. Okay, so you exercise control. And so what happened was that there was a different part of the Florida statutes that was also implicated with these definitions of controlling interest, which was not defined in Chapter 600, which was the Florida statute, okay? And these people did the work. Like, this REIT had done the work. The fund did the work of saying, hey, here's how you're going to get there.
They did a favor for a lot of other funds.
No. Let me tell you something. They did a favor to, in my view, to the governor, to the state, because, and I spoke up. I was like, we have to make this work. We're going to have to fit this, because there's no way
can't do it,
that the governor and the legislature's intent with this statute was to make it so that equity funds and hedge funds and this and that can't invest in the state of Florida. There's no way that was the plan. And everybody on the commission was like, yeah, no, we agree. Absolutely not the plan. And so we sat there with these people after drafting the lines, our lawyer, the Freck lawyer, the lawyer for the Carlisle group. I mean, it was fascinating. And I went up to her after and I said, man, thank you. You guys really, because I want you to know.
Out of the fire,
by the way, the opposition would have taken it, would have rammed it right up, you know, right up the governor's, you know, by saying, look what you did, you know, like you've prevented all this investment. And that's absolutely not the plan. So luckily there was a solution, and it's not going to be an issue. But you got to be careful, man. I mean, you know.
And I mean, how many people missed that, right? For it to even get
everybody.
that far.
See, that's the kind of thing that people miss.
That's going to scare the hell out of you, because like when it's something that there's so much capital tied up in that, so you have so many eyes on it. When it's not something like that, when there's that many eyes on it, and there's all these rent control again being a great example of you know, these great high ideals and what actually happens.
Because there isn't really like a like a landlord lobby per se.
Yeah, it's not like,
you know, like it's not a cohesive industry.
We don't meet on every second Thursday. It's not a thing.
Yeah,
you're right.
Let me ask you a question. So you were a CPA in New York for a bit, and then came over here?
Yep.
We were talking about it last week. How is it different to do business here in Miami versus New York? I mean, we keep on talking about
Florida.
You know, the first, so I mean, it's probably the same story.
Miami, though, right? Oh well, yeah, he's up there.
You know,
no, it's not Miami.
Yeah, you're right.
You call somebody, you say you're going to meet them at 9 o'clock.
Right.
You know, Tuesday, I'll be there. And you know, in Florida, it's like, even contractors or whatever, you know, it's like, okay, it's 11 o'clock. You know, I told the guy I thought he was going to be here at 9 o'clock. Didn't call yet.
Yeah.
They show up at 12:30, like, oh, we're here. And I'm like, you know, that was like, that took a little while to get used to.
Yeah.
Then you get used to it. But I think you had touched upon it too, is like contracts too. It's like a deal is not a deal until you get to the closing table.
Yeah.
Because anything is off. You know, it's like it's a different mindset, I think, here in Florida, where contracts and deals are a whole different story than it is. Yeah, we're over there. It's like you know you have like, not to get to, you get the George Floors, like really, you know, making sure they're covering all their,
that one.
Yeah, covered
all, as opposed to all the other lawyers who are not nearly as careful. So I don't know who you're insulting. Maybe both. Well done. He's managed to insult both sides on that. So listen,
the Jews are too careful.
No one can be offended.
But even buying and selling real estate, and just like a lot of the stuff that, you know, it's different. It's just different. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Do you agree with that?
100%. The level of sophistication. I mean, listen, every time. And I mean it, even to big law here in Miami. Like I had and I do mean the pleasure of closing some deals for a bank client of mine in the past 12 months. And these were very interesting deals, high value deals, sophisticated parties. And man, the big firm lawyers in other states, Philadelphia, New York, that I was dealing with, I mean, what I learned just from dealing with those guys via email, the quality of their documents. Like, you know, you get the documents in Word, and for us, the practice of law, incidentally, is the only business where they reward plagiarism. Okay, so it's like, please don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay, like if you walk into your lawyer's office and he's got like a blank screen and he's starting to type a document, like run. Yeah. Okay, like it's been done before. Okay, you can modify, you can make improvements, but by and large, you know, I don't know who the first guy was, the scribe that wrote like these forms that we use, but man, the quality of the documents and their way, the professionalism. I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm sorry if you're a big firm lawyer in Miami. There are very good ones. There are many, many good lawyers in Miami. But man, you know, it's just like same thing. By the way, it's same thing with real estate agents. By the way, you go up to the middle estate, and the people that come to see the
quality,
meetings,
100%.
And their level of devotion and commitment to the profession, is
they're
just
a professional,
different.
right?
Yeah, I mean, they're professionals, you know, and so I mean, I definitely would agree with that.
I don't know. You want any questions wrapping up?
I think maybe I'd ask the question, you know, is there anything, because I mean, as a business owner, this is one I always like to ask in my podcast, is there anything you've learned in business that was kind of like, as you look back, it's like, that was a big one, like something that you want to share with the people that are listening and say, you know, if you're in business, what would be some big takeaway for you?
Or for one of your clients that you've seen a mistake they've made or anything like that?
You know, I would say I had a business where I had a partner. Maybe you could.
Don't get partners?
Don't get a partner, but just make sure, because it's like a marriage. That was one of the worst things. Because untangling that situation was probably one of the worst things that I had to go through. And you know, it's like a divorce. You know, and many people could talk about that. So I think that was probably one of the big things, that a takeaway that I would just remember. That was a very nasty situation.
Yeah. So how to have the right with the right people.
You know, I always tell people, they come in, I'm like, ugh, you know, and it's, you know, they want to. Everything's all great and all hunky dory going in, you know.
Yeah,
just
I had a buddy of mine like last week, whatever. It's just, I'm not gonna say the business, whatever, but he was looking for a partner, right, in a particular business, and you know, he didn't even know the partner. He was in a partnership with somebody. He didn't even know the partner. Like, never done any business with the partner. I'm like, are you fucking insane? like, dude, like, you're going. It is a marriage. That's like meeting somebody and then just getting married and starting to live together in the whole situation. I mean, if you're gonna get a partner, I mean, it better be somebody that, I mean, you've done business with. Things have gone right and things have gone wrong before. You know, I always tell people, I mean, like these two gentlemen here. I mean, I met them in business. We became friends through business, not the other way around. And I think that's what happens a lot. I think people go the other way around. Well, they're a really good friend, so they're probably going to be good in business. I don't know.
Not necessarily a good resume.
That's where friendships get ruined. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, we've gone through good, bad. I mean, you know, every argument we could possibly have, we've had, you know, that type of stuff. So not as much Cadillac, but you know,
I just marvel at your arguments. I have been a fly on the wall for a few of those, and it's breathtaking. Really.
But yeah, you know, when picking a partner, if I'm gonna give, you know, any advice, and I've seen, a lot of friends go in the wrong direction with that. Yeah, just make sure that you've gone through some stuff. There's ways to do business without going into business.
Yeah, my old man was not a fan of partnerships.
Right, but he was a tough personality.
Yeah, he would say that he has to be a gallo de su patio, which translates to he's like, I have to be the rooster of my yard.
Yeah, he must have been a very difficult guy to be a partner. If there was one crazy guy to do a business with him.
Yeah, I just had a guy come in. He had a restaurant with his brother-in-law, and now they don't even talk for like, I don't know, a few years now, and they're having to deal with the employee retention credit.
Yeah.
So one of the guys got the checks. So now they're trying to figure out what to do with that, and it's like several $100,000, and that's a mess.
I hope they did it right, because the IRS is busting people's balls on that.
Yeah,
they don't like that
there's going to be some pushback on that. Yeah, because
anytime there's free money,
well, they had all these guys just calling. These just set up shop, and they had telephone anybody you can, and tell them you're going to qualify for this, and then most people don't even understand. Like, oh, this is free money, and then you have to go through the metrics to make sure that you qualify for that.
I just went through it the other day, where we get. I don't want to say we got a call, but it was sort of that way. And, this client of mine says to me, he goes, hey, I want to do this. The government's giving away money. And so, I want to be on the free money train. And I said, okay, sure. Let's, I think it's a horrible idea, but let's go through it. And so they connect me to the ERC people, and the lady starts she starts with the sales pitch. And immediately I was trying to make it clear. I'm like, hey, I know the difference between what you're saying and the truth. So forget the sales pitch. Let's talk about what my client's going to have to show. And then she was like, well, we offer two services. The first is where if you can provide all of this shit, we'll prepare the package and we'll stand by it. Okay, what it means is that when the IRS comes calling, they'll be there to advocate for you. Okay, and then it was or there's the other package where depending on the narrative that you're able to generate, then we'll prepare the application for you, but we will not you're on your own after that.
Yeah.
And so I ended up concluding that neither was acceptable, and then of course the client gets pissed and he's like, I don't understand, what the position. I go, no, let's fucking go through it. You have to be able to show this. Can you show this? He's like, oh, and of course this is a guy who's at this level, and the operations people are at this level, and when he talks to them, they're yes people. They're like, oh yeah, absolutely, this and that. And then so we bring these people in, and then I have to do what makes people not like me. I engage in the painfully simple questions, and then when you, and so it's listen, how bad do you want the free money? Lose sleep bad? Because I don't want anything that bad, and so it's everything else, man.
Yeah, we went through the questions here, and we don't qualify.
Right. Right. You had to have a loss in income.
Yeah.
It's man, we were crushing it.
Yeah.
That was my one thing. It's hey, we had to show a loss. We crushed it. And then he was like, yeah, but we could have crushed it more. I'm like, but that's not the way the rule works. It's not. Can you imagine? Judge, he said he could have crushed it more. It's like nobody likes that argument, dude. The regular people, they're there. They're like, you hear this asshole? He could have crushed it more. It's
how much more could he have crushed it?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and quantify this. Yeah.
Man, it's crazy.
All right, guys, we got to wrap it up. Your book, yeah.
So I have I have a couple of ebooks out there. You just go to my Instagram page and hit the link tree there. You could
Instagram page
is seeing beyond the numbers.
Seeing beyond the numbers.
Seeing beyond the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it on the description.
Yeah.
And thanks, man. Thanks for
everything. Thanks for having me. That was great.
How did you find this guy?
Ariel found him.
Ariel found him.
I think we got the same guy that does
Man,
the
I'm
clips,
really
right?
impressed.
Yeah.
I thought you guys knew each other.
Oh, no.
Oh, so that's why he's been busting my balls about not getting interviewees. I'm sorry, but I'm not good. I don't have someone to cold call for me.
So is this something?
he did.
The other start doing on a regular basis?
The other two.
You did a bang up job, bro. So Ariel found him and Ariel called him. Great job, bro. No, you're knocking it out on the interview game, you fucking asshole.
Listen, have somebody call somebody and get somebody in here. Get your head out of your ass and let's get some interviewees.
Got it. Delegation.
Yeah, the delegate. Fine. You know what? Delegate. Just get somebody. Yeah. So, no, man, cool.
So you're gonna have this on a continued basis on?
Yeah, man, we've been pretty consistent. So we got a couple of interviews coming up that I lined up. Pretty interesting ones.
I lined up by delegation.
No, these are not even these are non-delegated ones. These are non-delegated ones. So yeah, we've done a couple. We did one interview before. This will be our second too. Right.
Oh yeah, but this is
Yeah, business-wise, yeah.
By the way, our good friend, I just want to read this out loud, okay? We can end on this. Our good friend just sent us a text that says, breaking video leak. Arrested child trafficker admits to boarding school used as a front for organ harvesting in Ukraine. Dun, dun, dun. Don't send the money.
Yeah.
That's your guy, bro.
That's your guy.
Oh, my God.
You started that.
All right.
All right, guys. Cool. Thank you. So the book,
so
we'll
much,
we'll put all his information up. Thank you for coming. Josh's book, for sure. Yeah. Josh, if you could hold your book like Vanna White.
I can do my Vanna White. I studied
Vanna
for
White
years.
privilege. Vanna White privilege.
By the way, I noticed that. Did you see who's in the foreword?
No.
No? Oh, can we open it up?
Wait. While the ball busting begins.
Yeah, no, let's open it up because I didn't do my job to promote the book, but I'm on right there.
Right. Well.
Oh.
Okay. Fine.
Fuck.
Well, fine, but dude, I had to chase you around for 3 weeks.
Powerful quote.
I had to listen. I had to chase you around for 3 weeks to be able to promote it.
Yeah. Well,
that's
good
it.
things come to those who wait.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you. What camera am I looking into? I don't even know. It's only one, right? All right.
Signing off.
Thank you.